Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to episode number 197 on Josie's Art School. So glad that you've been here with me. If you've been following along over the years, I am just so grateful that you have been along for this journey. I have been an art teacher now for close to 6 years. I remember when I first put a video on YouTube saying that this was my lifelong dream to be an art teacher, and it's just been an amazing journey to get here in very unconventional ways, but here we are, right? I'm almost at 200 art lessons here on YouTube. I have close to 350 over on Teachers Pay Teachers if you ever interested in purchasing my written lesson plans. Of course, you might be joining me because you purchased one of my art kits, and hello, I'm so glad you are here. Today we are going to do a seaside boat, or maybe someone would call a houseboat. So as always, I give you a couple of examples for you to take a look at and be inspired by, and then I will be drawing right along with you over here on this piece of paper. And as always, you're going along with me on this, but anywhere you feel inspired to take this in a different direction, I encourage you to do that. So as you can see here, this has more of a tugboat feel, and you can see the waves really moving along the sides here, and then there's a boat up here in this upper left hand or right hand corner, and then a sun. And on this one, the water, you see the movement of the water, but there's one boat, and there actually is two levels of a neighborhood sitting there. So you could do either one of those options. I'm going to do the standard option that if you bought the art kit, you have the step-by-step instructions that I'm going to go along with. What I like to do when I am teaching art, and if you were in an art class with me, you would always have the instructions right there in front of you of what I'm going to do. But what I like to see is I like to sometimes look at it right in front of me on my table, and then also watch as someone draws it along with me. And so that's how I've come up with this process that you now see here on YouTube. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. You're looking at an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper here and the examples. If you got the art kit, you have an 8 by 10 canvas panel. And then I'm going to be working on an 11 by 14 piece of paper so that you can see it up close in larger detail over on the screen. Okay, so as always, I like to put a dashed line down the middle just to give me a sense of where I want to place everything on the paper. You can choose to do that, or you can freehand it, okay? I am going to be drawing with a Sharpie. As I say that, I'm like, where's my Sharpie? Oh my goodness. I might actually be using an oil pastel, so that should be very interesting of how the paint's going to work with that, but let's get started. All right, so I'm going to first draw my boat. So what you'll see here is I'm just going to make a straight line, and I'm just going to do a more structured boat. So on the sides, I'm doing two curved lines, and then right down the middle, I'm closing that line to make it a shape of a boat, okay? And as you can see, it's a very standard looking boat, very similar to what you see in this example. But if you wanted to do this example, I would say put a boat here, and then maybe put a boat up here in your upper right-hand quadrant, okay? So from here, I'm going to build a little more on the boat. So this would be the area that the captain might sit. So I'm going to make a square and then make maybe a little window as an opening there. Okay. Then I'm going to make the sail. So again, a little bit different than what you see here on these examples. There's no sail on this one, and there is a sail on both of those. Okay. And from here, I'm going to add kind of some openings, windows down below. Okay, this is something that is different from the one that might have come in your kit. I'm just being inspired to do kind of a combination of what I see here and what I see over here. Okay, and then I'm going to put a rectangle up top. So this is my main view of the boat, right? And so from there, again, I can make some decisions about what I want to do here in the background, but I like the focal point of my picture being the boat. Okay. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and start building the buildings over here. And so an easy way to do it is to take this space right here between the sail and the back area where the captain would sit. And I will make a line going up and over. So this gives you a feel of the boat passing by the buildings. You notice that? All right, so from here, I'm going to add the buildings. So there's one rectangle there. A rectangle down below. One that goes a bit higher than both of them. And this one I'm going to add a roof to. Okay. Then a building here on the side, but I want to make it small enough so you can see this as a dock. Okay, and then I'm going to start to add the details to the buildings. So you could add a chimney if you want, you could add some windows. This kind of reminds me of something you might see someplace like Venice, or maybe off the reef of the dock of San Francisco, if you've ever visited there. Just kind of a boating community feel to this. And you can make different size doors and different shapes of windows even. You could even put some people looking out the window. Kind of just to give it more interest, I'm doing different types of shapes on each of the buildings. Okay. So then from here, you would start to build the water. So this is just your traditional bouncing wave here. And here is where you can be very simple. And then as you start to add the color is when you would start to add more detail here. So maybe just one wave here by the dock. And then over here, you could add a boat if you wanted to. Maybe a little houseboat. Now, right now it looks like it's up in the air, so the way to change that mood would be then to just add some water features. Okay. You could also come back and add the sun, or maybe add the moon if you wanted to, or maybe the sun rising. And that would be your basic drawing right there. Okay, and of course you can add more as you go along. I like to, as I'm painting, add in more details as well, being inspired by the colors I'm using. Now, let me show you what it is that I am using today. Today, I am actually using a different type of oil pastel. Wanted to introduce these to you. These are called Craypas Expressionist, and these are very vibrant colors. And I think you would really enjoy these as well. I think I also got these from my local Michael's. But as you can see, the difference between the ones that I've used in the past, the Daler Raleigh, these are more of your traditional colors, where these give us a little bit more of a pop. So there's those. I actually also have a little bit of acrylic paint today. So here's some apple barrel. This is Snow White. And then this one's Craft Smart. And it is a sage green. Now, I don't know if I'm going to use those or not, but I wanted to keep those handy. As always, I do have some watercolor paint. And then I have my crayons. So you can gather up whatever you'd like to fill this in with color. If you have the art kit, you'll have some of the primary colors and then black and white of your tempera paint. But feel free to get your markers, your colored pencils, your crayons, and start to add in more color. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I like to just pick a spot and add color and then build around the color there. That kind of breaks any sort of fear you might feel feel over what color to start with first. So I just picked up one of my oil pastels, and I'm filling it with color. Now, remember, I told you I couldn't find my Sharpie, so I actually drew this whole thing with a brown oil pastel. So this is going to be very interesting how the colors are going to work together when I already have oil pastel on the paper. Now, here's a little trick if you are new to oil pastels. It's very similar to a chalk pastel where you can use different I don't know, I wouldn't call it supplies, different materials, let's say that, to blend with. So my favorite blending tool is a good old cotton swab, but you can also use tissue if you like. And you just go in and you just rub over the top of your oil pastel, and you'll see it blends, but it also softens the look as well. So you can choose where you want to blend this in a bit more, and you can leave some of it with that more colored look. And then, you know, that way it just kind of varies the texture on your paper. It just makes it the more interesting to the eye to look at it. So there I am, already very satisfied with these oil pastels. I'm very glad that I picked them up. I will try to drop a link on in the show notes of where I got these from if you're interested in purchasing them. Now, I don't have any special affiliate links set up. I just like to share what I use because I know for so many years I was buying supplies just not really knowing, you know, any better as far as what was better or worse. And what I realized very quickly is that not all oil pastels are the same, not all watercolor paints are the same, and definitely not all paint brushes are the same. So you might want to check out my video that I made when I was teaching over on OutSchool to kind of give parents some tips on what kind of supplies to buy their children when they're doing these art classes, because you don't have to spend a lot of money. That's the good news to buy good supplies. And I just think there's something to be said about when you don't use a higher quality supply, what ends up happening is a child, or even you know, as an adult, start to feel like maybe you're not good at something, and it's just you weren't given the right tools to create with. It's very much like so many people think that they are not great at math, and then, you know, you may at some point in your life get a really good math teacher and you just realize, oh, that wasn't about me. I just wasn't connecting with the way in which that they were teaching, right? So the same can be said for having the right supplies can make all the difference in the world. All right, so right now I'm using some watercolor paint. And as you can see, I'm being very free with my color choices. I really like doing that. Now again, as you go along, I would say sometimes you might make a choice and maybe you're not so pleased with what it looks like. I would always encourage you to just leave your painting for a while and come back to it later and see if you still feel the same way about the choices that you've made. Okay. So now I'm just using different colors of blue because I definitely want to have, I don't want it to be so flat on the page by using the same types of blue. So I might mix it up between the oil pastels, between a little bit of the acrylic paint. I've added some watercolor paint, and as you can see, even just leaving what we call room to breathe, so you can still see some white in there, kind of makes all the difference. It makes the water have more movement. It makes the painting more interesting. And so I would encourage you never to feel like you just have to fill in every single white area of your paper. I think I'm going to actually add some brick to that dock area, just so it has a little more differentiation between that and the boat. All right, so let me add a little bit of my acrylic paint here and see what that does for the painting. Would also say, this is another tip that I like to use, is sometimes I'll use acrylic paint, but then I'll water it down and have it, you know, activate as watercolor paint. You know, just to play around with my supplies. You know, again, part of the fun of, you know, finally sitting down and doing something creative is you don't block yourself in with what supplies can and cannot do. One of my favorite colors right now is this sage green. All right. So now from here, I basically want to make everything sage green. I have to hold myself back on that. But let me just add it to the boat. Now remember, as you're going on, just play with color. Don't become so rigid about this has to be a certain color, or I have to do these combinations together. Because even as I see my orange, pink, and green together, I actually really love that combination. It's not a combination I've put together before. Have you ever found, you know, yourself kind of releasing the idea of how colors go and just really, you know, go for it? Okay, so again, here's kind of me being inspired. I want to add more sage green without making the whole thing sage green. So I'm coming up with clever ways that I could add it to the painting, right? So now I'm adding it a little bit to the sails, and it also brings some cohesiveness to the painting as well, right? Okay, so then from here, I think I'm going to add a little bit of white to my water. So even though you have white paper, what I always find, I feel like your painting comes more alive to not simply leave your areas white that you want white, but actually to paint or use a white crayon and bring the white more actively into the picture. And I might be saying that wrong, but that's kind of how I feel it when I see it. Like, there's white, of course, that, you know, that area was already white, but there's something about painting white on top that makes it feel like I've made a conscious choice to make that area white. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm making that choice to bring a little bit more white in. I'm doing it over the top even of the oil pastel, you know, just to let it blend a little bit together. That kind of lightens up the oil pastel as well. Okay, and then I also want to put some over the top of the boat, right? Because I don't want it to look like it's like the boat's just kind of landed on top of the water. All right. I'm actually going to paint some white in the background too, but that's just so when I come back through with oil pastel or crayons, that again, it kind of works with that white paint, right? So it seems like at this point it's not really doing anything, but as I add to it, that's when that white actually becomes a more active part of the painting, right? And then maybe just brushing some over the top. Okay. All right, so from here, I'm then going to come back to my oil pastels, add in a little more color. So here's some purple. Now I'm feeling really inspired by this color palette, and so I want to work a little bit more with it. So there is something about, you know, my last few videos, I've kind of used the same supplies, you know, and that's fine. You kind of get your favorite supplies, but every once in a while, it's always good to just bring out something different. Even if you have, you know, Crayola markers, you could add those to it. Even if you don't do it all around, you know, just in certain places, and just see what you think about the look that you bring just by adding a different supply. Okay, so here I'm not trying to get too matchy-matchy or make it brick, but just add some interest to that dock so it looks different from where the boat is sailing. Yeah. All right, so from here, add a little bit of yellow. I think I'm going to add some to the sun as well. Add a little bit to the boat. So there is something in art called the rule of threes, and I'm trying to emulate that in the painting. So as you saw, I picked 3 places for the yellow to be so that it makes sense to the eye in the painting, right? All right, so we are getting close to being done. I'm now going to add a little bit more to the water. So here I'm using a lighter oil pastel. Okay, and then I think I'm going to paint the area of the dock. Bring that a little bit more to life. I'm doing a blend of a couple of browns that I have with my watercolor paints. All right, let's add a little more to the sky, and then I think we're going to call it good. Get a little bit of blue. And then as you can see, you see how the watercolor paint is engaging the white paint that I painted on there. You guys, I love it so much. Okay, I hope you're enjoying how yours is coming together. Now, mind you, part of the fun with creativity is to find a way to be fearless with what it is that you're creating. Because that's when you will get the, you know how when you see certain paintings and it like really just, it's what they say, speaks to you? I think that comes from really putting that excitement into what it is that you're painting. All right, let's add a little bit more here in the bottom. All right, you guys, I think we are done here. Well, please make sure and send me what you have created. You can tag me on Instagram under Robin_Norgren, or you can find me under Joseys Art School. Anyway, thank you so much for stopping by. It's been so great to create with you. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you know all of my art lessons when they are uploaded, and please share with a friend. My art kits, my sewing kits, my art journal kits, all of the links are down below in the description, or you can Google Joseys Art School. You'll find all of it everywhere that I sell. All right, you guys, thanks so much for coming by. Goodbye.